What is going on, everyone? And today we are going to be counting down my top 5 most surprising films of 2024, as well as my top 5 most disappointing films of 2024. And this is a video, just as the title suggests, is the most surprising and disappointing films. Most surprising doesn't mean my favourite films of the year, and most disappointing doesn't mean my least favourite films of the year. They're just ones that either exceeded my expectations or far surpassed modest expectations for surprising films, or didn't live up to my expectations for disappointing, or films that I even only had a little bit of hope in and still didn't reach that bar. So, fair warning, this isn't going to be ranked really in any way, except for the number 1 spots. I will say that those are definitively the most surprising and disappointing films, but the ones 2, 3, 4, and 5 aren't really going to be ranked because I actually had a bit of trouble coming up with ones for the most disappointing films in particular. So let's just get into it, and I think we should just rip the band-aid off now and talk about the most disappointing films, get the bad out of the way first. And coming in at number 5 is The Exorcism. I can't say The Exorcism was really on my radar that much, but when I heard the concept, when I heard who it was being directed by, it's actually directed by the star of The Exorcist, Jason Miller. Jason Miller's son, Joshua John Miller, I believe his name is. And it's about a man struggling with alcoholism who is filming a movie about a possessed girl whose mother is an actress in Georgetown. And it's like, this is a movie about the making of The Exorcist and the supposedly cursed production of it. And I was like, that's actually really cool. That's a really cool concept for a film. And being directed by the son of one of the stars of the original Exorcist, I'm like, this could be really cool. The problem, I didn't know about it until like 2 weeks before its release, and then the more I looked into it, I realized that it was actually filmed in 2019 and was shelved, and it was all cut down and edited and just thrown out there with no marketing whatsoever. So I wasn't expecting much, but just the concept really intrigued me. So I went and checked it out, and while it kind of promises that you are going to get that, a possession, like a cursed film set movie, it starts off really quite good. The second half of the film just turns into the most generic, boring, cliched possession movie thing. Like, it is literally eyes rolling into the back of people's heads, their bodies contorting weirdly, them saying horrible things. Like, it's just every cliche in the book, and that's what it ends up becoming. And what ends up happening with it is that it basically rips off The Exorcist entirely, because it's like, it's supposed to be on the set of The Exorcist, so to make some kind of metatextual elements come to life, they just recreate scenes from The Exorcist poorly. So this was just a bizarre one for me. I just don't really know what happened with this film. I don't know why it was filmed so long ago, like filmed before COVID even, and only just being released now. But yeah, this one was really disappointing. I wasn't, expecting it to be the greatest thing. I was certainly hesitant, but by the concept, I was like, this could be awesome. And it just was not even close. Coming in at number 4, we have a little film called May December. Now, I went into this film knowing absolutely nothing except for the fact that it starred Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. And because it released in 2024 in Australia and released wide pretty much everywhere else in 2023, I'd had those few months of people hyping it up, saying it's one of the best films of the year and Oscar nominations, amazing performances, everything like that. So I had this idea in my head that it was going to be really, really great. So that buffer period from late 2023 when it released everywhere else to early 2024, I had that entire time to hype it up. So when I saw that it was coming out in Australia, I was like, bitch, I'm in. I don't know nothing about it, but I'm in. I'm going to see what this is all about. And I just sat there for 2 hours, completely perplexed at what I was watching. I noticed, because as I said, I knew nothing about it, and it started, and it's kind of a little bit camp and over the top, especially with the music cues. There's something about Charles Melton says something like, "We don't have enough hot dogs," and they show all the hot dogs on the barbecue with this massive queue, and it's just like, okay, so this is kind of a little bit of a silly film. Then you progress further into it and you realise that Natalie Portman's character is coming to visit Charles Melton and Julianne Moore, who are husband and wife, because Julianne Moore assaulted Charles Melton's character when he was a 12-year-old boy. And they've been together ever since then. And Natalie Portman's character is making a movie about it. And it's a movie about child assault. And it's kind of camp and kind of blackly comedic. I'm not like saying that you can't make films about provocative conversations and stuff like that. I think that's important to have, to make people think and discuss and everything like that. But just the way they went about it with this film, I was just like, oh no. Like, there was actually some parts where it actually made me chuckle. And I just felt like an awful person because I'm like, no, this is horrible. What the fuck? This is absolutely disgusting. So I just left it feeling really gross and weird and I didn't like it at all. I think the performances are really solid. I just find it tonally so confused and I don't know, maybe I hyped it up into my head like too much. Maybe I didn't know what I was getting into, but then I watched it and I'm like, oh God, that is a really weird approach to take for a film with this subject matter. Yeah, so that one was pretty disappointing. Coming in at number 3 for most disappointing film of 2024 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I have to confess, I only watched all of the Ghostbusters films for the first time earlier this year, before this film came out. And I really, really enjoyed the first one. I think it's a great film that still holds up. I actually surprisingly enjoyed Ghostbusters 2 quite a lot. The remake was okay at best. Nothing god-awful, but I would never choose to watch it. And I enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife. And all signs pointed towards Frozen Empire being a fun enough little time. And like, the trailers looked good. I thought the concept, I was like, okay, they're doing something different. This demon spirit coming out and freezing all of New York and the Ghostbusters having to team up. Like, you know, different setting, creative concept, taken in a new direction. I thought it looked like it would be a fun time. And it was not a fun time whatsoever. It was surprisingly serious, kind of, like not really that many funny gags. There's about 15 different characters that all get like screen time, but like almost equal amounts of screen time. So it's so unfocused and overstuffed. And as far as ghostbusting stuff happens, there's one scene at the beginning of the movie and then at the end of the movie. And it's just like, aren't we coming here to watch Ghostbusters? It's just like, there's none of what we come to these movies for. And I didn't hate watching this film by any means, but the more I think about it, the more I really actually dislike it. And it's probably going to end up in my bottom 10 of the year. I was just shocked at how they fumbled the ball so badly on this world. What was the point of having Finn Wolfhard in this movie? Like, he does nothing. He gets covered in slime by a ghost at one stage, and that is it. Just say his character went to college or something like that, but you dedicate like 10 minutes to him running around an attic trying to catch this ghost. It's just so stuffed with so much bullshit. And then by the time you actually get to the Frozen Empire thing, there's 15 minutes left in the movie. So it's just like, the actual thing that I came here for, the ghost busting, is barely in it. And then the new direction that the trailer promised is just shoved away to the last 15 minutes of the film, and then it's just over before you know it. So just a nothing burger of a movie. There's just nothing there. I don't I don't get what the goal was with this film. I thought it was absolutely dreadful. Coming in at number 2, we have a little film that I only just watched recently called Caddo Lake. Now, this one was not on my radar whatsoever, except for maybe about a month before it came out. And I heard people talking about it. I heard M. Night Shyamalan promoting it. And all the reviews and people that saw it were really positive about it. And then I kind of looked into it just a little bit, had a look at some things about it, like the plot synopsis, and I was like, oh, okay. So it kind of takes place around and on this lake, and all these mysterious disappearances happening on it. And I was like, I'm really intrigued. I'm into this. I want to see what it is. And the trailer, the landscape looks stunning. And I'm like, what is actually going on with this lake? Is it a Bermuda Triangle situation? Is it just natural causes in a whirlpool? Is there a time dilation sort of thing going on? Is there a portal? Or what is going on here? And the answers that the film gave us was really interesting and a lot to chew on. It's just the way the film was edited was so unbelievably horrible that it ruined the entire film. You cut from Eliza Scanlon and Dylan O'Brien's character rapidly for the entire film. It's just like 90 seconds with one, 90 seconds with another. So this film isn't awful. It's not good. It's not good at all. Concept is great. M. Night Shyamalan's name intrigues me, but yeah, this is a disappointing one because I really liked the idea of this film. It just ended up failing the delivery. But coming in at number 1 for the most disappointing film of 2024, easily the most disappointing film of 2024, is Maxine. Now, I'm someone that when I first watched X, I thought it was okay. Second time I watched it, I loved it. Third time I watched it for Maxine, in preparation for Maxine, didn't like it whatsoever. But I really like Pearl. And I thought, you know what? This is an original horror trilogy that just came out of nowhere. It's an original vision. It's got a great performance from Mia Goth in Pearl in particular, but she does good in X as well. But then I was like, you know what? If they stick the landing on this, whether it all works for me or not, I just have to acknowledge how impressive this is. And even though they didn't stick the landing with it, I still acknowledge that it is cool that Ty West was able to make this. Just make it happen. Have a trilogy just in a few years just come together and be a part of horror history. I think that's awesome. But I was really rooting for this movie to land the plane, and it didn't crash the plane, but it wasn't a steady landing at all either. It was just, I used this description for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire earlier, but it's another nothing burger of a movie. It just feels like there's nothing here. I'll give it this. The setting and the location and the set design and the kind of grimy 80s setting with that kind of satanic panic spiked into it a bit, I really like that. There's some gnarly gore here, which I like. The rest of the movie just feels like stuff happening. There's a serial killer around. Some people are dying. It's all happening at this party in the Hollywood Hills. There's this private detective chasing Maxine around. Then you get to the third act twist, and it all just kind of ends. It's just stuff that happens without any real narrative flow or arc. The parallels between Pearl and Maxine feel completely unrecognized. The twist, or just the reveal of what's going on, might be the most predictable reveal in any film I've ever seen. It's just so disappointing. I just don't know what was going through Ty West's head. I don't know why he, at least with X and Pearl, they're distinct visions of films. Like, yes, whether they work for you or not, you have to appreciate that they are horror films made by someone with a passion. This one just feels like it was kind of just released out there. And it's a thriller with no thrills. It's a mystery with no mystery. It's a horror film with no scares. There's no tension present whatsoever. It's just stuff happening on a screen. It looks pretty. I'll give it that, but I was really disappointed with Maxine, unfortunately. I know some people really liked it. That's great. Not for me. Okay, we've got the most disappointing films out of the way now. And now it's time to get into my top 5 most surprising films of 2024. And keep in mind what I said earlier. Surprising literally means that. Surprising. This isn't a list of my favorite films of the year. And that is so apparent because number 5 on my list is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Keep in mind, surprising. This film surprised me. The first one is bottom of the barrel trash. It's not even bottom of the barrel. It's literally underneath the barrel. It's that bad. The second one, I watched it thinking, fuck, I'm gonna put myself through this. By the time the credits rolled, I was like, do you know what? I kind of had fun. Now, I'm not going to say it's a good film whatsoever because it's not really. There's still a lot of problems. It still takes itself way too seriously, but the slasher fun that was not present whatsoever in the first film that should have been there is here. There is some really fun sequences with Winnie the Pooh and friends going to town on people, and I enjoyed it. I can't say I didn't enjoy watching it, because I did. It's, as I said, it's got major problems. I wouldn't even give this one a positive review, but the schlocky slasher stuff is here. It's bloody, it's violent, it's got some funny one-liners. I was surprised because I finished watching it and I was like, fuck. It's not good, but it's not too bad. Coming in at number 4, we have Joker Filet à Deux, which I'm just going to call it Joker 2 because I don't know how to pronounce it properly. I think that was correct, but whatever. Joker 2. This is a strange one because I was really looking forward to this one. But then the early reviews came out and just pummeled it. And I actually decided to not go and see it in theaters. I was like, from what it sounds awful. It sounds like it's an aimless sequel. It sounds like it's just musical numbers when there should be stuff happening. And I have no interest really. But then you get a couple of people that were saying, actually, you know what, go in and give it a chance. Just give it a look. I think it was Michael Mohan, the director of Immaculate, said something like, if you were pushed away from the negative reception that it got, it's worth going in with an open mind. So I rented it the other night, went in with an open mind, and I enjoyed it more than the first. I can't believe I'm saying that. I preferred Joker 2 over Joker 1. I thought that this movie was terrific. It's not without its flaws. It is muddled. It is overly long. It is sluggish. But for a film about sort of coming to terms with this myth that you have created and how you kind of have to live, and even if you're like it's like a fucked up version of celebrity culture. It's just like your fans all see you one way and you've got to maintain that image. You've got to come to terms with who you are seen as, and this is going to basically define you. I thought it was a really profound sequel. I thought it was really clever. I thought Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic. And the discussion that you had about whether Arthur Fleck was the real human or whether Joker was the real him, and whether Joker was just a performance from Arthur Fleck or if Arthur Fleck was just a performance from the Joker, that was really cool. And it made sense to have the musicals in it, because the musical numbers, I should say, because they're all performances and, you know, how he kind of views himself in his head. It's a muddled sequel. It's an interesting sequel, but I was intoxicated by it and I really liked it. And I'm glad I gave it a chance because I had a really good time. It left me thinking a lot, and I just liked the audacity to do something so bold, especially following up such a beloved film. Coming in at number 3 is VHS Beyond. I've only seen one VHS film, and it's the first VHS film, and I absolutely hated it. So, going in to check out VHS Beyond, I just saw it on Shudder. I was like, oh, fuck it, I may as well just watch it and get it done with. Every single story was great. Every single short film here was awesome. Everyone just delivered what you wanted. I was like so shocked at how good this was. Normally, even in the best of anthologies, you have one or two stories that are like, yeah. Everyone here, or maybe the one that kind of bookends is a little bit unfulfilling. But aside from that, everything is great. Specifically Live and Let Die. That is one of the greatest horror shorts that I've seen in a long time. That blew me away. But even everything else, like you have the Dream Girl one, I thought was a really fun kind of and creative riff on Carrie almost. Like how it's like, yeah, it's found footage, but also because it takes place on a movie set, a lot of it was captured with film cameras. I thought that was a really creative way to go about it. I thought Stalk was great. It's just like, what would happen if Big Bird was on crack? Then you had Fur Babies, which Justin Long co-directed or directed. He might have co-written it. Not sure on that. Justin Long had a big hand in it. And that's kind of like him, instead of going to therapy for Tusk, he just decided to create his own twisted version of it. And then you had the one by Kate Siegel, written by her husband Mike Flanagan, called Stowaway, which absolutely horrified me. It reminded me very much of The Jaunt by Stephen King, and some of the transformations in that film, they're never leaving my head. All's to say, VHS Beyond is a phenomenal collection of short films, and considering how much I hated the first VHS, I was shocked and so surprised that I enjoyed this one as much as I did. Coming in at number 2 on my list of most surprising films of the year, which you probably expect to be number 1, but I'll explain why. Number 2 is The First Omen. This is one of the best films of the year. This film is absolutely incredible. Amazing lead performance, a really creepy, eerie mood that just seeps throughout the film, that explodes in some horrific sequences. The gore here, while sparingly used, will stick in your brain forever. The score is phenomenal, and most importantly, it has a purpose to exist. It brings something new to The Omen, and that just blew me away. How is a prequel like 50 years later, or like 48 years I think it is, how is a prequel 48 years later actually a worthy prequel to a classic horror film? And not even just as a prequel it succeeds. It just succeeds as its own film. You could watch The First Omen without watching The Omen and still really enjoy it. So this one was just, I was expecting, nothing from this, and it shocked the hell out of me. But coming in at number 1 on my list of most surprising films of 2024 is Speak No Evil. Now, let me explain why The First Omen isn't number 1, because The First Omen is a significantly better film than Speak No Evil, but this is the ones that surprised me the most, and Speak No Evil absolutely surprised me the most, because The First Omen is attached to a film and a franchise, or just the film because I haven't seen any of the sequels. It's attached to a film that I love in The Omen. Speak No Evil is attached to a film that I hate. The original Danish Speak No Evil is a film that I hate with all of my heart. I despise that film. I don't think it's clever whatsoever. I don't think the acting is very good at all. I think it's just a disgusting film. And where it goes in the end is just like, you really have to show that in that graphic detail? Fuck you. That's just, no. No, I really don't like where that film goes. I think it's absolutely vile. And becomes redundant because it's not tense at all, because the characters are so badly written that you can't invest yourself at all. I just think it's a terrible film. That's a discussion for another day. But anyway, an English language remake of a Danish film that is like 95% in English anyway, coming out just a tad over 2 years after the original film's release, directed by a guy who directed Eden Lake, another film that I hate. He also did The Woman in Black, but still a name that I was skeptical of. And it was better than the original, brought something new to the original, and manages to stand on its own as a damn good thriller. James McAvoy's performance is phenomenal in this film. I think he is magnificent. This might be my favourite role of his. He's done a lot of good stuff, so that's saying a lot. But my God, he's good in this film. It manages to get its point across that the original film was trying to get across without being overly gratuitous and mean-spirited and just leaving you in a way where you're just like, oh no. It's actually tense because the writing is tweaked to make more sense. Everything works. The bunny in this film, at least they give the bunny a bit more attention so that when the little girl has a big tantrum because she wants to go back and get the bunny, it still sucks, but at least they make you just think about it a little bit more. Like, they give you more reason to understand why this bunny is so important. So all the annoying shit from the first film is toned down completely. I'm actually surprised. How is an American remake of a foreign film actually smarter than the foreign film? It's normally the complete other way around. But anyway, I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed this film. And the tweaks it made to the end were fantastic. I would happily watch this film again. And yeah, I just can't believe it did it, because from a director whose name kind of turned me off and a remake of a film that I absolutely despised. Normally English language remakes suck. So I couldn't believe how much I liked this film. Not one of the best of the year, for sure, but my expectations were below the ground and they were exceeded tenfold. Well, that's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Let me know what films you were most surprised by in 2024, as well as which films disappointed you the most. I'll see you all later. Bye.